Welcome to another wee walk with Steve. It's a glorious autumn morning, as you can see, blue skies. Over there is Fairhead and Ballycastle behind this big bunch of grass. Coming round, that is Kintyre in the distance and Rathlin in the foreground. And my destination for today is Kinbane Castle, down there at the bottom of the cliff. It's one of the McDonnell castles of the north coast, the other main one being in Dunluce. There's not an awful lot left, and we're heading down some rather dew covered stairs, which has made them a bit slippy. We're following the path that used to be the route down to the castle in years gone by, which was a bit risky because it's almost straight down just over there. But the council, actually the National Trust, in all its wisdom, has put up a nice big fence so that we don't fall over. Because from this height you would make quite a big splash. It's not one of the most well-known places on the north coast because it's quite hard, or quite easy I should say, to miss the signpost to Kinbane Head, and there's no actual sign for Kinbane Castle. And there is a view along the coast. Ballycastle's just beyond the far headland. I'm going kind of canny down these because the stairs are a bit slippy. Although, while not overly visited, there is a fairly constant stream of people willing to go down these steps. It's not suitable for pushchairs, as you can well imagine. There are about 150 steps down and up. And you'll notice they keep the cliff well under control. Because of the danger of falling rocks. We're getting closer to the castle. All that's really left of it is a tower and an enclosure wall. And as we come down, we're going to come to a caution livestock sign. And a kissing gate. Now, there's a lot of water. It must have rained last night. This isn't all dew. A sticky robin run the hedge, and brambles left and right. Sorry about the bumping. We're very nearly at the bottom of the stairs. Ooh. A few more to go, and they get slightly flatter as we go down. Ooh. And that outcrop of limestone is known as the White Lady, and there are myths and legends about it being the solidified remains of a witch who fell in love with a gentleman from the islands, and he promised to come back and he didn't, and she stood waiting for him for 50 years and gradually turned into a pillar of limestone. As there in the second one. Now, as with all places along the north coast, this was, until fairly recently, a salmon fishery. Salmon heading for the River Bush, which is about 6 miles to the west, would come along the coast here and quite close in. And as a result, you could run a net between the shore and 100 yards out, and bring it in. It would be full of salmon. Even in my lifetime, that was the case. They've stopped doing it now because there are preservation orders in place for salmon, and the netting rights are much restricted. Now, most people head off down towards the castle, but this little sidetrack, which will end up with my trousers getting wet, takes you out round the back of this outcrop, and you'll see when I get up round the corner, and we're on an outcrop of limestone at the minute. Oh, bear with me. And we come over the top, and you've got that view out over Fairhead in the North Channel to Scotland. And down here we have the remains of the salmon fishery. I'll just be careful going down here because I don't want to end up in the sea. Because Valerie would have my guts for garters if I came back soaked. Whew. There we go. And the other thing that this is famous for around here is, as you can see, there are flint deposits in this limestone. Lots and lots of flint through straight lines of flint nodules. And in years gone by, back in the Stone Age, the flints from around here could be found all over the world. Well, all over Europe. And as you can see, the cliff edge is quite close. Just be a wee bit careful going to the edge here and hold the phone with both. There's the sea. And there's actually a waterfall over there which I might get a picture of later. Not too wavy today, but this building, I can remember having a roof not that long ago, and this is the net store where they would keep the net. You'll notice no fireplace, and there's a shelf here which would have gone across to there, where the buoys that kept the net from sinking would be put. And this little room was where the fishermen stayed while their nets were out. And you can see where the lintels would run across for the ceiling. Again, no fireplace, no chimney. This was a place where people would stay out of the rain, and when they got up in the morning and they looked out the window with their cup of tea, that was their view. And going outside again, they would have shot the nets out in a boat from down below us here in that little inlet. And here we have some wooden girders, slabs, and this metal is where they would shoot the net from. The boat down here would be taken down Oh, you can still see the steps where it would have run down as concrete. The boat would have taken one end of the net, the other end would be attached to here. It would be taken out on a line out to right there. And then the gentleman fisherman would have pulled the net in, and there used to be, it's gone now, but you can still see the post where it was attached. There would have been a winch that would have winched the net in for them. And there's the White Lady. And that is a freshwater trap. When the water ran off the roof, it would collect in this bowl because there's no fresh water. Well, there's a waterfall around the corner, but it was better to collect it. And this is where the boat would be kept and launched from down there. And on a stormy day, that could be full of waves. And if I come up by the White Lady, ooh, bump, bump, bump. There we are. That's the White Lady looking out to see if her boyfriend is coming. And by all accounts, he isn't. And we come round to Kinbane, which is really out by itself. On a high tide, the castle island is actually cut off from the mainland when the tide comes in. The waterfall is up there, but it's not very big today. There hasn't been enough rain recently for it to be gushing. Just going canny because it's a bit slippy. Now you'll notice there are very obviously straight lines in the grass here. These are the remains of houses and fields that were used by people who worked in or for the castle. And this is known as the English ground. Back when Ireland was ruled by a group of Gaelic and predominantly Catholic barons, the English weren't too happy about it and sent across a flotilla of boats with soldiers, and some of them ended up here and they besieged Kinbane, and that's one of the reasons it's the state it's in. Is it wasn't captured, I don't think, but the English troops set up their cannons here when they were besieging the castle. Back down to the... Ooh. There we go. And as you can see, the island that the castle is on is actually an island, although we have this causeway that takes us across to where the stairs were. Now, there wasn't actually evidence of a lot of stairs here in the bad old days. It was just a bit of a scramble. You can see in the wall behind the stairs modern stairs. There are no stairs in place. It would have probably been a wooden ladder, the ladders that would have brought you up. All this brickwork is modern and was put in place by the National Trust to allow people to get up and down. And up we come into what would have been the main gates here, stretching across between that side and the main wall. And you can see there's a little slot which would have been used for archers or muskets to defend this very narrow, very steep approach. And you can't actually see a great deal left now, but the door would have hung in this gap, and it was no doubt substantial. And you can see the other side here, the door was only maybe 3.5, 4 foot wide. And this is the boundary wall on the west side, going all the way up. And there would have gone on round this bit. The other side of that window is there, and it would have been used as a defensive port for both, well, archers in the early days and muskets in the later days. And this is the main tower of the castle, and the end of the castle walls have been robbed or fallen out, but it is a substantial construction. Oh, yeah. Now, this bit dates from the late 1500s, and you can see the post holes along the top there would have come out into a bigger hall which would have gone across here, which would have been floored. Come ahead. The corbelling on the door arch is very reminiscent of the 1500s. I remember this because my big family friends, when I was younger, Donald Garvin was a student of architecture, and he would point out these things. Now the wall has actually mostly gone from here, but this used to be, as you can see by the thickness, used to be a bow that went out, and in it there would have been a large gun loop where they could have fired out at people over in the cliffs. Similarly, we have one here. The gate is modern to stop people leaning out and falling over, and it would have given a good angle on the approach to the ladders. And there's another one up there, and a big window that way for keeping an eye out. Now, You can see the 4 main joist holes that would have held the ceiling up, because the upstairs window and up there is a chimney, or a fireplace I should say, leading to a chimney. Similarly, there's one on this side beside the window for keeping the watchman warm, and there's one here as well. And again, the door lintels have long gone, but there would have been a large door. The hinges would have been on this side and the door would have swung out. And if we walk up the eastern wall, lots of clover. You can see how well defended this little castle was. It would have been very hard to attack without getting fired upon from above, particularly from the roof of the tower. And just see the salmon fishery, which is late Victorian, poking its head up behind the White Wife. The hole in the cliff there is supposedly made from cannon fire. Not sure whether I believe it or not, but I can kind of understand shooting at people coming down the path, trying to undermine it so that when they were bringing cannon down, they would slip and fall in the sea. And you can see round, there's a large slab of limestones in there. That's in the past I would go to if I was fishing. I do have to be a wee bit careful because the wall falls away here, and it just goes down a very slippy slope to the sea. And I have no urge to go and investigate down there. I have done. There's a large cave here in the limestone, which, as with all things, I don't think you can see it from this angle, but just down there you can hear the waves going in and out. There's 2 caves, a small one and a big one, and supposedly that is where silties live. Creatures that are seals by day and people, usually beautiful men and women, by night. And up at the top there is a path that goes along to the point. You have to be quite brave to do that. It's what's known as the signal point, and fire should be lit there to let Rathlin, well, Rathlin would know first. He would tell Kinbane, and we can, from the point you can see the whole way along to Dunluce. But the wall, which has been repaired, the mortar's all modern, but the wall itself is from the late 15, early 1600s. Has been standing there quite happily for 500 years. And I'm just going to pause there for a minute. And back again. I was just helping a lady with a dog get down a steep bit. I'll not go much further because this limestone is really slippy. And there is a big chunk of flint. One of my bucket list items is to learn how to knap a flint. I haven't got round to it. Maybe when I retire. Now, I'm not going to go much further. You can just see the causeway on the other side of Dunseverick. And way over there, past Rue Point, and zoom right and you'll see an island blue in the distance. And that is Islay, where all the whisky comes from. And the big flat bit at the side is known as the Oa. Oh, hiya.
Hey, careful, the grass is wet up there.
Oh yeah, I'm not going that far.
Okay, I was going to say you'll fall.
Yeah, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. If I come back round here, there's the cliffs. The only defensive problem was from the top of the cliff. It was possible to aim a cannon down the ways to the castle. The problem there was it's very marshy up there, very boggy, and getting a cannon across was problematic. And continuing the 360 down past Ballycastle Head, Knocklade in the distance, Fair Head with Kintyre behind it. And that's going up the signal point, but I'm not going up there. As the lady said, it's a bit slippy. And there is Kinbane Castle. It's free, it's a bit of a walk down, it's an even longer walk back up all those stairs. But I recommend you come over and take 20 minutes, half an hour to walk down, have a look round, and then 20 minutes, half an hour to walk back up again. And that's all for this glorious, sunny, nearly October morning. Goodbye. Love you all.